Alrighty, guys, we are going to finish this. Um, Sorry I'm not there today. I'm sorry we didn't get finished yesterday, but we will get through this. Um, we'll talk about it here a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So, when we left, Waverly had met an elderly gentleman in the park and was learning how to play. His name was Lao Po. She became a better chess player. It was suggested that she play in a tournament, which she really wanted to, but she knew her mom wouldn't let her. So remember, she used reverse psychology and told her mom that she didn't really want to play. And mom responded with, "It's shame you fall down, nobody push you," which means you're giving up without even trying. So here we are. We're at paragraph 39. I'm not sure which page it was. Page 69, paragraph 39. During my first tournament, my mother sat with me in the front row as I waited for my turn. I frequently bounced my legs to unstick them from the cold metal seat of the folding chair. When my name was called, I leapt up. My mother unwrapped something in her lap. It was her Chang, a small tablet of red jade which held the sun's fire. "Is luck," she whispered, and tucked it into my dress pocket. I turned to my opponent, a 15-year-old boy from Oakland. He looked at me, wrinkling his nose. As I began to play, the boy disappeared. The color ran out of the room, and I saw only my white pieces and his black ones waiting on the other side. A light wind began blowing past my ears. It whispered secrets only I could hear. "Blow from the south," it murmured. "The wind leaves no trail." I saw a clear path, the traps to avoid. The crowd rustled. "Shh, shh," said the corners of the room. The wind blew stronger. "Throw sand from the east to distract him." The knight came forward, ready for the sacrifice. The wind hissed louder and louder. "Blow, blow, blow. He cannot see. He is blind now. Make him lean away from the wind so he is easier to knock down." "Check," I said as the wind roared with laughter. The wind died down to little puffs, my own breath. My mother placed my first trophy next to a new plastic chess set that the neighborhood Tao Society had given to me. As she wiped each piece with a soft cloth, she said, "Next time, win more, lose less." "Ma, it's not how many pieces you lose," I said. "Sometimes you need to lose pieces to get ahead. Better to lose less. See if you really need." At the next tournament, I won again, but it was my mother who wore the triumphant grin. "Lost 8 pieces this time. Last time was 11. What'd I tell you? Better off lose less." I was annoyed, but I couldn't say anything. I attended more tournaments, each one farther away from home. I won all games in all divisions. The Chinese bakery downstairs from our flat displayed my growing collection of trophies in its window, amid the dust covered cakes that were never picked up. The day after I won an important regional tournament, the window encased a fresh sheet cake with whipped cream frosting in red script saying, "Congratulations, Waverly Zhang, Chinatown chess champion." Soon after that, a flower shop, headstone engraver, and funeral parlor offered to sponsor me in national tournaments. That's when my mother decided I no longer had to do the dishes. Winston and Vincent had to do my chores. "Why does she get to play and we do all the work?" complained Vincent. "It's new American rules," said my mother. "May May play, squeeze all her brains out for win chess. You play, we're squeezed out." All right, so we can already see that the mom is starting to favor her daughter's interest in chess. She doesn't have to do her chores anymore. Um, think about how you would feel if you had a sister or brother who was great at chess, and all of a sudden your parents said, they don't have to do anything anymore. You do all their chores because they need to practice. By my ninth birthday, I was a national chess champion. I was still some 429 points away from Grand Master status, but I was touted as the great American hope, a child prodigy, and a girl to boot. They ran a photo of me in Life magazine next to a quote in which Bobby Fischer said, "There will never be a woman Grand Master." "Your move, Bobby," said the caption. The day they took the magazine picture, I wore neatly plaited braids clipped with plastic barrettes trimmed with rhinestones. I was playing in a large high school auditorium that echoed with phlegmy coughs and the squeaky rubber knobs of chair legs sliding across freshly waxed wooden floors. Seats across from me, Seated across from me was an American man about the same age as Lao Po, maybe 50. I remember that his sweaty brow seemed to weep at my every move. He wore a dark, malodorous suit. One of his pockets was stuffed with a great white kerchief on which he wiped his palm before sweeping his hand over the chosen chess piece with a great flourish. In my crisp pink and white dress with a scratchy lace at the neck, one of the two my mother had sewn for these special occasions, I would clasp my hands under my chin, the delicate points of my elbows poised lightly on the table in the manner my mother had shown me for posing for the press. I would swing my patent leather shoes back and forth like an impatient child riding on a school bus. Then I would pause, suck in my lips, twirl my chosen piece in midair as if undecided, and then firmly plant it in its new threatening place, with a triumphant smile, thrown back at my opponent for good measure. I no longer played in the alley of Waverly Place. I never visited the playground where the pigeons and old men gathered. I went to school, then directly home to learn new chess secrets, cleverly concealed advantages, more escape routes. But I found it difficult to concentrate at home. My mother had a habit of standing over me while I plotted out my games. Plotted means she's thinking ahead. She's thinking, all right, if I do this and then they do this, I can do this. She's trying to figure out and guess not only what the other person is going to do, but what her own move should be. I think she thought of herself as my protective ally. Her lips would be sealed tight, and after each move I made, a soft harumph would escape from her nose. Ma, I can't practice when you stand there like that, I said one day. She retreated to the kitchen and made loud noises with pots and pans. When the crashing stopped, I could see out of the corner of my eye that she was standing in the doorway. Only this one came out of her tight throat. My parents had made many concessions to allow me to practice. Okay, concessions, we talked about this yesterday. It's when you allow people special privileges. You agree to give things up. All right, for example, she says here, one time I complained that the bedroom I shared was so noisy that I couldn't think. Thereafter, my brother slept in a bed in the living room facing the street. So she got her brother's rooms so that she could practice. I said I couldn't finish my rice. My head didn't work right when my stomach was too full. I left the table with half-finished bowls and nobody complained. So she doesn't have to finish her dinner, whereas her brothers would. Her parents conceded that, okay, if you want to go practice and you'll practice better without a full stomach, that's fine. But there was one duty I couldn't avoid. I had to accompany my mother on Saturday market days when I had no tournament to play. My mother would proudly walk with me, visiting many shops, buying very little. This my daughter, Waverly Jong, she said to whoever looked her way. One day, after we left the shop, I said under my breath, I wish you wouldn't do that, telling everybody I'm your daughter. Okay, that's an important. If you're highlighting in your book, that's a good thing to highlight. She's embarrassed that her mom is showing her off. My mother stopped walking. Crowds of people with heavy bags pushed past us on the sidewalk, bumping into first one shoulder, then another. Aye, so Shane be with your mother? She grasped my hand even tighter as she glared at me. I looked down. It's not that, it's just so obvious. It's just so embarrassing. Embarrassed you be my daughter? Her voice was cracking with anger. That's not what I meant. That's not what I said. What you say? I knew it was a mistake to say anything more, but I heard my voice speaking. Why do you have to use me to show off? If you want to show off, then why don't you learn to play chess? My mother's eyes turned into dangerous black slits. She had no words for me, just sharp silence. I felt the wind rushing around my hot ears. I jerked my hand out of my mother's tight grasp and spun around, knocking into an old woman. Her bag of groceries spilled to the ground. Aye, stupid girl, my mother and the woman cried. Oranges and tin cans careened down the sidewalk. As my mother stooped to help the old woman pick up the escaping food, I took off. I raced down the street, dashing between people, not looking back as my mother screamed shrilly, May. I fled down an alley, past dark curtained shops and merchants, washing the grime off their windows. I sped into the sunlight into a large street crowded with tourists, examining trinkets and souvenirs. I ducked into another dark alley, down another street, up another alley. I ran until it hurt, and I realized I had nowhere to go, that I was not running from anything. The alleys contained no escape routes. My breath came out like angry smoke. It was cold. I sat down on an upturned plastic pail next to a stack of empty boxes, cupping my chin with my hands, thinking hard. I imagined my mother, first walking briskly down one street or another, looking for me, then giving up and returning home to await my arrival. After 2 hours, I stood up on creaking legs and slowly walked home. The alley was quiet, and I could see the yellow light shining from our flat like two tigers' eyes in the night. I climbed the 16 steps to the door, advancing quietly up each so as to not make any warning sounds. I turned the knob. The door was locked. I heard a chair moving, quick steps, the locks turning, click, 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 and then the door opened. "About time you got home," said Vincent. "Boy, are you in trouble." He slid back to the dinner table. On a platter were the remains of a large fish, its fleshy head still connected to bones swimming upstream in vain escape. Standing there waiting for my punishment, I heard my mother speak in a dry voice. "We not concerning this girl. This girl not have concerning for us." Nobody looked at me. Bone chopsticks clinked against insides of bowls being emptied into hungry mouths. I walked into my room, closed the door, and lay down on the bed. The room was dark, the ceiling filled with shadows from the dinnertime lights of neighboring flats. In my head, I saw a chessboard with 64 black and white squares. Opposite me was my opponent. Two angry black slits. She wore a triumphant smile. "Strongest wind cannot be seen," she said. Her black men advanced across the plain, slowly marching to each successive level as a single unit. My white pieces screamed as they scurried and fell off the board one by one. As her men drew closer to my edge, I felt myself growing light. I rose up into the air and flew out the window. Higher and higher above the alley, over the tops of tiled roofs, where I was gathered up by the wind and pushed towards the night sky until everything below me disappeared and I was alone. I closed my eyes and pondered my next move. All right, so you see here the classic parent-child struggle. Waverly's getting a little older. She's asserting her independence a little bit. Mom is the proud mom who doesn't seem like she has a lot going for her at home. So when her daughter's successful, she's kind of living through her daughter. So that's why Waverly feels so embarrassed. Mom doesn't understand why she can't just go around and show her off like a trophy. All right. Now, let's just review here a few things. We talked yesterday about the very beginning. Waverly wants the plums in the storage. She throws a fit. Her mom won't get them for her. The next time they go back, Waverly's smart. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't throw a fit. And at the last minute, her mom grabs a bag of plums for her. We talked about that being invisible strength. Okay, that means that the ability to be calm and not show your emotions and not let people, know what you're thinking, is an important lesson, especially when she gets into chess. That's a skill that's going to help her. So her mother's teaching her something that she doesn't even know will be valuable to her yet. Okay, we talked about Vincent, her brother, got the chess set, and there were missing pieces. So Waverly used her candies that she got. She learned why the opening moves were important. Her brother taught her. She argued, why can't the pawns do this and that? And her brother just said, it's the rules. And then her brothers lose interest, and she just becomes enthralled or obsessed with it, and takes off from there. She tells her mom she doesn't want to play in a local tournament because they would have American rules. We talked about that's reverse psychology. She knows by saying this that she's going to trick her mom into letting her play, which she does. We talked about how she is annoyed by her mom when she's trying to practice, and her mom's watching her and making little comments and stuff. So she's very annoyed at her mom. We found out that her poor brothers got kicked out of their room. Waverly got their room because it was quieter, and she could leave the dinner table without eating all of her food, whereas her brothers had to stay. We talked about the word plotted. If a chess player is plotting, that means that they're calculating all the possible moves. They're trying to outguess their opponent. We talked about concessions. If you are making concessions to something, you are giving in to someone's wishes. Relented was another word that we saw. If you relent something, that means you give up. We talked about this in class. If I take my kids to Walmart and they keep saying, we want a toy, we want a toy, and I say no over and over again, and then finally I'm like, all right, you can get a toy. I have relented. I have given in. Okay, I've changed my mind. We talked about how Waverly and her brothers are excited about the back alleys, where they were the most exciting things to play because of all the weird shops and everything. They called it the best playground. When her brothers bring the chess set home, Waverly is instantly intrigued by the mystery. She's sucked in. She becomes enthralled with it. She says it seemed to hold elaborate secrets, and that the chessmen were more powerful than old Lee's magic herbs. We talked about Waverly doesn't like going shopping with her mom because she's embarrassed by her mom showing her off. She says, I wish you wouldn't do that, telling everyone I'm your daughter. When you look at the character of Waverly, she's a very complex character. She's got lots of angles. She wants to do well in chess, but she has trouble fighting with her mom. If you were looking for some characteristics of a chess player, ask yourself, what would those be? Well, you'd probably have to be pretty smart. It's, to enter a tournament and to want to win, you would have to be competitive. And, chess is a hard game. It takes years for some people to learn and master. So you'd have to be persistent. You would have to, keep learning. Even if you're losing, keep playing. Okay. We talked about how Waverly got special treatment. The real question is, why does she get that special treatment? Well, it's because her mom, recognizes that she's got a gift, and her mom, although she shows her off and kind of, lives vicariously through her and her accomplishments, her mom really does want her to be successful. Let's see here. We talked about the relationship between her and her mom. The whole central theme of this is it shows us the struggles between a mom and her daughter. Okay, especially a daughter who's just about to become a teenager. Okay, so it's that struggle between parents and their kids. There are 2 questions on your quiz about the meaning of a word. They want you to identify a positive and a negative meaning. So you want to look at the words they give you that are underlined and ask yourself, which one of these is a positive word? Which one of these is a negative? It's pretty easy to figure out. Which one of those would you rather be called? Ask yourself that. Okay. And that's it. So, if you have followed all of that, you should be successful on your quiz. And what I'm going to do today is let you take an open book, open note, open video quiz. You may use those three things as you take the quiz. I've already told Miss McCann, if she's still my sub, that you guys are allowed to use that stuff. If you have any questions, you can ask her. You can ask Mr. Klein if he's there. But what I want you to do is work on taking the quiz. And then when you finish the quiz, there's a little PowerPoint on helping verbs. And what I would like for you to do is, I'm going to pull this up here in 1 second. Actually, let me do it in here. We're going to switch around here. We're going to go here. Tuesday's folder. All right, we're going to look at these helping verbs, okay? Bring this up here real quick. All right, we've talked about action verbs. Those are things you can stand up and do. And we've talked about linking verbs. That's the equal sign. Billy is tired. Billy equals tired, so is links Billy to tired. Helping verbs is just going to combine those two things. I'll show you what we're talking about here. What we're looking at now are verb phrases, not just a single word, but two or more words. You have to have an action and a helping verb. So, for instance, the first sentence here says, Darth Vader is standing next to the Emperor. You ask yourself, what's the action in this sentence? What is Darth Vader doing? Well, he's standing. Now, all you have to do now is ask yourself, what words need to be with standing for it to make sense? I couldn't say Darth Vader standing next to the Emperor. That wouldn't make sense. I need the word is. So the is the helper. It helps out the action. Okay. So if I asked you for the verb phrase, you got to have a helper and an action. So the whole verb phrase for that is standing. Another one. Han Solo was running from the stormtroopers. Ask yourself first, what is the action? In this case, it's running. Okay. Then we look for the word that makes sense. I can't say Han Solo running from the stormtroopers. That's not a complete sentence. I need that word was in there to make the verb phrase was running. Here's a list of all the helping verbs. So these are the words you want to look for. You want to look for an action in one of these words. Okay. Now, some verb phrases can have more than one of these words. For example, we will be going to the movies after school. Well, what's the action? First, the action is going. Now, I could try and say, well, we will going to the movies after school. That doesn't make sense. I could say we be going to the movies after school. That doesn't sound correct at all. So I have to have both the words will and be. We will be going to the movies after school. Emily should have gone to the library instead of the movies. Well, what's the action? Gone. Okay. I can't say Emily should gone to the library. I can't say Emily have gone to the library. Those are both incorrect. So the verb phrase here is should have gone. Okay. So we have two helpers there, should and have. Now, the word not is sometimes thrown in, but not is an adverb. We're going to talk about adverbs next week probably. Okay. If I ask you for a verb phrase, you never put the word not in there. It should not be included. We will not be going to the party. What's the action? The action is going. I can say we will going to the party. That doesn't make sense. We be going to the party doesn't make sense. But if I say we will be going to the party, that makes sense. The verb phrase is will be going. Okay. If you see the word not, it should not be in there. Contractions. Contractions can have part of the word phrase. For example, I've been waiting in line forever. Well, the action is waiting, but now I have to ask myself, okay, What's I've? If I break it down, it's into 2 words. It's I have been waiting. I have waiting in line forever doesn't sound right. I've been waiting in line forever doesn't sound right. I have to have I have been waiting. So if you see a contraction, ask yourself, hey, what does this contraction mean if I break it into 2 words? All right. It's not as hard as it seems. You've got one assignment down here where it's multiple choice. Tell me what the verb phrase is for the 10 sentences. All right. So you have a quiz, which you can use this video, your notes, what we talked about yesterday in your book. Go over the contractions again if you need to, and complete this, or contraction. Go over the helping verb PowerPoint again if you need to. You got 10 sentences here where it asks you to find the verb phrase. If you finish all of that, you have 2 choices. You can go to Quizlet and practice this week's vocabulary, or you can work on missing assignments, but that's it. Shouldn't see anybody looking at trucks, anybody playing games, any of that nonsense. If you have any problems or questions, send me a message. Okay? Anyway, hope you have a great day. Be good, and I'll see you on Wednesday.